Today in history, Flipper. No, not the dolphin. Henry Ossian Flipper was born on March 21st, 1856, and he grew up as a slave in Thomasville, Georgia. He was a very, very intelligent young man. Another slave actually taught him to read, which put both of them at great peril. After the Civil War ended, though, he got to attend schools that were run by the American Missionary Association, and he began studying at Atlanta University in 1869. Flipper had always felt drawn to the military. He wrote to Georgia Congressman James Freeman in January of 1873 requesting admission to West Point. Freeman replied that he would recommend him only if Flipper proved worthy and qualified. Well, he did prove himself, and Henry was allowed to take the entrance exam. Good news, he passed that entrance exam, and Flipper, he entered West Point on the 1st of July, 1873. Big shock here, guys. At the time, he endured a lot of racism at the academy. He was also well aware that the 6 black men who attended West Point before him did not make it to graduation. Oh, and bear in mind, a black classmate of his, Johnson Whitaker, was severely beaten and ultimately expelled for supposedly falsely accusing other cadets of attacking him. So despite this extreme adversity, Henry Flipper actually managed to make it through, and he became the first black man commissioned from West Point in history. And that, of course, occurred on June 15th, 1877. He was sent west with the 10th Cavalry, also known as the Buffalo Soldiers. While in Texas, he was promoted to lieutenant and became a quartermaster. It was also in Texas where he was court-martialed for embezzlement and conduct unbecoming an officer. You see, Flipper had been asked by his commanding officer to keep the quartermasters safe in his quarters. Shortly thereafter, $3,791.77, which is more or less $75,000 today, was found missing from the safe by Flipper. Knowing that if this was discovered, it would be an excuse to kick him out of the military, he tried to hide the discrepancy, but ultimately it was discovered. Flipper, though, he hadn't gotten to this point in his career without earning some respect from his peers. Indeed, most people didn't believe that he had taken the money, and indeed thought that the whole thing was a setup in order to get him kicked out of the military. And in an amazing turn from his time at West Point, his fellow soldiers and members of the community raised the missing funds in order to cover the shortage. But alas, this did not matter. When he was eventually found innocent of embezzlement, he was also found guilty of conduct unbecoming an officer. This is despite the fact that 2 previous instances of white officers actually embezzling government funds and being found guilty of it resulted in them not getting dismissed from the military. Further, do remember that Flipper had been found to not have done anything actually wrong other than trying to hide the fact that there was a discrepancy. Anyway, it didn't really matter because he was dismissed from the military on June 30th, 1882. Good news though, he went on to have a very successful career, in fact several careers, as a civilian. He worked for numerous private companies and the federal government as a surveyor, engineer, civil and military, translator, author, and an expert in Mexican land law. He also wrote several books, including his autobiography, The Colored Cadet at West Point. Throughout the years, Flipper always maintained, as he put it in a letter to US Representative John Hull in 1898, the crime of being a Negro was, in my case, far more heinous than deceiving the commanding officer. Indeed, he went on to make numerous attempts at having the conviction reversed, but it was all to no avail. He ultimately died in 1940 without this wish being granted. In 1976, though, Flipper's descendants and the supporters of his cause once again appealed to the United States Army on his behalf. They reviewed the case again, and they found that this time the sentence against Flipper had been unduly harsh and unjust. Lieutenant Henry Flipper was issued an honorable discharge that was dated June 30th, 1882. On February the 19th, Lieutenant Flipper was also granted a full pardon by President Bill Clinton. Today, West Point honors his memory with a memorial bust of its first African-American graduate. The Academy also presents an award in his name to a recipient who demonstrates the highest qualities of leadership, self-discipline, and perseverance in the face of unusual difficulties during his 4 years at the Academy. So that is another in our series of Today in History, talking about what happened on Today in History. This one was quite a while back. If you like this series, if you like this video, give us a thumbs up below. Let us know how we're doing in the comments below. Any feedback is always appreciated. Let us know if you like seeing this stuff. And do remember, this is not in addition to regular Today I Found Out content that comes out as well. This is just a fun bonus. I hope you liked it, and I'll see you next time.